Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gaming Mix podcast, your official podcast from analogstickgaming.com. Of course, if you don't know me by now, my name is Jordan, one of the co-owners of Analog Stick Gaming. And to my right, as he most often is the founder himself, Jeff. How are you doing today, Jeff?
Um, Not too bad. The heat's kind of chilled down a little bit, so that's been good. But my
Good.
screen door is broken, so when I have it open to cool off the pets, all the flies decide to come in. It's great. I
Oh,
love it.
lovely.
I
Lovely.
mean, Nix loves the flies. Yeah, she
Yeah, I
goes
mean, I
goes
mean, we
crazy.
saw her hunting them post podcast last time, so that was fun. But yeah, we've got some interesting news to go through today. Of course, we probably have a movie we can talk about as well, which is nice. So we'll do that at the beginning, and then we've got one game that we've definitely both been playing that we'll talk about, and maybe something else as well. But this should be a good episode for episode 96. However, before we get to the gaming, myself and you have both watched the new Spider-Man movie, Jeff. So I think we should talk about this movie. Jeff has Spider-Man on top of a cup right there. But tell me, Jeff, because I know you're very slightly higher on this movie than I am. I still really like the movie, but explain to people why you love this movie.
It's definitely not the soundtrack, I can tell you that. Um, Especially that song during the the flashier credits, the ones that have like it's not just
Yes.
black and white scrolling text.
Yeah.
Um, but no, it's it's kind of the first Spider-Man movie that we've had that has really felt New York. Like it's really felt like a New York on the street Spider-Man, because the other films have taken place in New York. They just haven't really felt like New York, you know. And that's the one thing I like about it is like Spider-Man is interacting with a lot of the components that make a Spider-Man story. You know, like we have, DeWolf, the cop, so he's got a connection with the police. So like those kind of moments are good, and then you have like the Punisher, obviously, and all that kind of stuff, and it just
Yeah.
it's fun. Like it's like I still think it's probably one of the worst marketed MCU films I think out there, because like
Interesting.
almost all of the major things that happens in this film are in the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we have the hand, we have the transformations, we have the Hulk,
Yeah.
we have
And also just in case like people like obviously we won't
oh
spoil
no.
anything, but people who have been paying attention to these trailers will also know what the big reveal is in this movie, like of
It's
who a certain
yeah.
character is.
Yeah, it
Like,
like that's the one thing that I kind of wished is that like like why was Sadie Sink even in the marketing? They've done films before where there's been a whole actor just removed from any of the marketing. They've never been
yeah,
involved in the press junkets and all that kind of
precisely.
stuff.
Yeah,
Like there's
I
there's
I
ways to go
almost
about it.
feel like what they should have done is, as you said, her entire role and everything should have just been kept under wraps. Because
Yeah,
there was a way to advertise this movie without ever having to let people know that she was in it. That could have
yeah.
been a complete surprise in itself.
Yeah,
So
like you could have almost sold this movie as if Tombstone was the bad guy. You could have had the scene that
yeah,
he's in holding him up, whatever, and then just
yeah,
that, and then people go like, "Oh, Tombstone's the bad guy." You blah blah
and
blah blah
also
blah.
you could have. Let's be honest. You could have actually framed this as a Spider-Man crossed with Punisher movie. Like,
Yeah, like there's yeah, like there's definitely lots of it. I mean, and again too, like if you have it where it's like, oh, Sadie Sink is in this movie, it hasn't been revealed, blah 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 blah, and then
Yeah.
like before the film comes out, you show that picture of her standing next to Punisher, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. But
Yeah.
no, for me, it's just like I still think it is one of the worst marketed films out there in
Hmm.
terms of like what they've shown, how much they've shown, um, and like the whole press junket thing and the denials and all this kind of stuff. I just think that the marketing is absolutely piss poor for the film. Like I say again, I love the film. It's already done like what 1.3
And
billion dollars or something.
I'm also in a weird place where it's that weird thing of if something leaks, I'm always of two minds in a situation when something leaks, right? Because I'm like, you can either deny it and then people end up sort of disappointed in you because you've made them think something else when they already figured out the truth. Or you can lean into it and you can go, the worst kept secret in such and such, you know? And it's like, so you, there are different approaches to it, and I definitely think that Marvel took the wrong approach. But in terms of my thought process on the movie, so I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that as a pure Spider Man movie, this is this feels like a grounded Spider-Man movie, right? Like he's dealing with a local problem within
Small
New
thing.
York, within New York, and he's interacting, albeit briefly, with some of them, but he's interacting with characters we'd expect him to be interacting with.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's they do a good job of it, and it's nice to see Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Spider Man not be in a situation where he's having to do some world saving kind of thing or
Yeah.
having to be part of the wider Avengers stuff, because that is something we haven't really got to see much of yet, right?
Now,
And we did get to see it in like Far From Home, for example, but most of that movie was about them being on a road trip, and it was just different. It wasn't the Spider-Man we know and love, right? I do have, and I understand why some people won't, but I do have one particular issue with this movie where I'm always like I'm not sure how to feel about. There is and Marvel have said it themselves. There is a tonal difference because of the age rating they wanted to put on this movie. There is a tonal difference in the Punisher character in this movie compared to in his own stuff.
yeah, but I think it's largely because he's kind of already done the avenging of his family, so he's not having to like go completely guns blazing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that's a fair point. I do. I would love, and I get it. They're always like, especially Disney. I think are always scared to make adult-leaning movies, right?
Well,
And it's
I mean,
like,
this Spider-Man film is a lot darker than any of the others that have come before it, even the
yeah,
Toby and the Andrew Garfield ones, because there's like
yes,
a lot more to it. But yeah, I think
oh yeah,
with Punisher, he's also dealing with Spider-Man, who's still kind of a kid in his eyes as well too. So
yeah.
he's kind of like toned it
Absolutely,
down a little bit there.
absolutely. And then I do think there are a couple of plot things that are unanswered, that they're minor but they make a difference to the character, and they're things that people would expect to be answered, right? Like one of the things I've seen online is, where in the hell is Peter Parker getting his money from? You know?
Yeah, I mean, he could also be like selling computer components, considering he's like dumpster diving and whatnot.
True.
But he's
And
also like,
especially with the price of those things nowadays.
yeah, and the price of the apartment he's paying for as well too, because it's like an asbestos kind of like
Yes.
attic and whatnot. Um, yeah, I mean, the thing that I look at it is like he's there's also a moment in the film where he's wearing the T-shirt for a pizza delivery place, and you got to
Yes.
imagine that he's they just don't sell those things, like it's for an employee. So maybe he's just on his days off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I just think that when we think about, for example, when we think about even like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, right? Which I've always found weird because the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, from what I remember, weren't actually that appreciated at the time, and then they became more appreciated by fans over the years. And what I think people liked about those movies is that they did represent Peter Parker and Spider Man. And with every Tom Holland movie so far, it's kind of felt like, for the most part, Spider Man takes the forefront. He takes the shine of everything. In this one, I did like that. Obviously, one of the core things they're dealing with in the narrative, like, we won't spoil it, but this was in the trailers and stuff. He's going through changes with his powers, right? And how that is kind of impacting him, and impacting his ability to complete his duties as Spider-Man, if you will. I really like that stuff, but I do hope that with this being the start of a new trilogy, as Marvel have said, I hope that now we're getting a more grounded Spider-Man in these movies, that they can lean into more Peter Parker stuff.
Well,
Like,
I think the next film is going to be probably the Venom saga, just because Secret Wars, I think, will have Peter in the black suit already. I think that's kind of
yeah,
gonna go there because Secret Wars is notorious for that as well. But for me, like, as well, is if that sixth film is not Sinister Six, what a miss on marketing.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. And I mean, they've already got some of those characters established, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that hard. Like we had Scorpion in, like, we know he's in this movie. He was in the trailers. He's also had small parts in some of the previous movies. So there's definitely, they've established like half of that group already.
Yeah, and they can
So
bring Michael Keaton in for Vulture as well, because with the spell he doesn't remember that he's Peter Parker anymore.
yes, that's true. That is true, actually. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I do think you're correct that if they don't build towards a Sinister Six movie being that sixth Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, that is a real missed opportunity.
See, even with the black suit, is they don't even have to do Venom in the next one. They could do Craven
Yeah,
and do a version of Craven the Last Hunt, and then you bring Venom in for the Sinister Six.
yeah, that's true. They could do it that way. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. I'm we will have, like, as time goes by, we will talk more about this movie. We've been discussing potentially doing a spoiler cast with some of our friends from the Outer Haven. I know a few of them still haven't been able to get tickets to see it yet, but there's spoiler things I want to talk about in this movie that we need to explore. However, one thing that did pleasantly surprise me about this movie that many gamers have picked up on is there are lots of references and nice little nods to the Insomniac Spider-Man games, right?
Yeah,
Did you notice that?
there's like a rooftop fight that he has that's just like it's a part of a montage type of thing, but it feels very much like the Insomniac stuff. So
Yeah.
that was pretty fun.
And there's like a helicopter scene that reminds me of the Insomniac Spider-Man stuff. There's there's bits where he's doing literal moves out of the Spider-Man Insomniac games in this movie. So so yeah, I think it's really cool. But I do know that Tom Holland's a gamer. So and from what I was reading, it was him that kind of put that pressure of like we should have these references to this thing in here because the people who are there's going to be a big crossover between the people who are playing the game and the people who go and watch the movie, right? So yeah, I think that's nice. That's a good touch. And as gamers, we always like to see things like that, don't we? So we will talk more about Spider-Man in the future. But now, before we get to the gaming news, we need to have a word from our sponsors because we do finally have a new link for you as well, which will be down below.
Awesome. So we have NordVPN. So avoid scams with NordVPN's next gen antivirus. Get 75% off plus 3 months extra. And that's the best and fastest VPN on the market, a stable and encrypted internet connection, and your all in one digital security app. Start browsing the world's internet today. And secondly, we have VITURE. The link will be definitely down below so you can save some money and help out the website. But we have a brand new review for the VITURE Pro 2. Rebecca had a chance to go hands-on with the glasses, and they are just as good as you expect from VITURE. So definitely check out that review. You will not believe your eyes.
Yes, I read that review myself, and they sound very impressive. So make sure you go and check it out.
And they're considerably cheaper than the pros were. Like
Yes,
they're half the price of the beast. So definitely
yeah,
check them out.
yeah, definitely. And we do have a link that will be below now because we've got that all activated and everything. So make sure you go and click on that link if you're interested. But now we have quite a few news stories in the world of video games to go through this week. Jeff, where do you want to start today?
Let's just go down the list. All right. So Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick has said that discs don't really make sense for the consumer in an investor Q&A. Take-Two is the parent company of Rockstar, the developer of the Grand Theft Auto series. The announcement that the upcoming GTA 6 would be digital only was met with uproar from fans. Our business is well over 90% digitally distributed, Zelnick said in the Q&A, as spotted by IGN. It's already a digital business, so in certain instances, especially if it is a big game, discs just, and note that I said discs, don't really make sense for the consumer. Also, most instances you have to register online to play anyhow. So if you're already connected, who cares if you download digitally? It's all the same and it's much more convenient. So that's where the world is going, in our opinion. And I think Sony understands that. We certainly understand that. It doesn't mean that we won't have physical editions now and then. I'm sure we will in some way if there's still vinyl in the record music business, but in other instances, it just doesn't make sense. The announcement that GTA 6 would be available only the announcement that GTA 6 would not be available in a physical format was followed up by Sony's announcing that the PS5 game discs would no longer be produced for games launching after January of 2028. In other GTA news, an extended look at GTA 6 will be premiering on Netflix later this month. So, yeah, like this has been kind of an interesting thing because, again, like Netflix probably paid a shit ton of money for this.
Yeah, so
You know,
I was speculating this with our good friend Keith Mitchell over at the Outer Haven because he said, and he's got a good news piece up on it at the Outer Haven where he talks about this being one of the most bizarre like marketing deals for a game ever, because it's so, to put it in perspective for people who don't know, we've obviously seen no actual gameplay of GTA 6 yet, right? In terms
Well,
of, there has
official.
been gameplay shots in that, yeah.
Well,
There, but
the leaked footage had like
yeah,
quite a bit of
of
gameplay.
course. But we haven't had an official reveal of gameplay, right? So we don't know how gameplay stands currently in 2026 because those leaks were from a few years ago, etc., etc. But what I find interesting is it's not like this first ever gameplay reveal for the game, first ever extended look at the game, is going to be fully exclusive to Netflix. If that was the case, I think that would be one thing, because it would be like, okay, that's actually pretty cool, an exclusive first ever look on Netflix, only on Netflix, right? But instead, what this deal actually is, when you dig into it a bit more, it's only exclusively on Netflix for 6 hours. So, for people who don't watch it straight away, people who can't watch it straight away because they're working or whatever, it's largely irrelevant. Like, for someone like me, yes, I'm gonna go and watch it on Netflix because I need to cover it for what we do, right? I'm like, yeah, it's, and I'm sure that other people, like our colleague James, who is working on a review for a game right now, he's probably going to be covering GTA for us later this year, and so he will probably watch that reveal to do some news for us at Analog Stick Gaming. It's one of those things where we will do it because we have to, because of what we do, but for most people, I don't think this exclusivity window of 6 hours is going to make any difference whatsoever, because people will just wait to watch it on YouTube. And but what I will say on the positive side of things is I'm not going to sit here and blame Take Two slash Rockstar for going out there and getting a really cool, what I'm sure was a really substantial deal for this exclusive reveal, right? Like, I said to our good friend Keith that I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix paid over 100 million for this. And it's like a 6 hour exclusive window. But I
Yeah.
genuinely wouldn't be shocked. And the reason is because this is probably the most hyped video game of all time, right? Let's be honest. GTA 6 is probably the most hyped video game of all time. So Netflix know, like, they'll be very aware that, okay, the masses, the general casual player is going to wait till it drops on YouTube. But the millions and millions of people who cannot wait for this game, they either have Netflix already so they'll watch it on Netflix, or I guarantee you there are going to be people out there who sign up to like 1 month of Netflix just so they can see this reveal as soon as it drops.
And that's if Netflix, if the network even holds. Because I mean, you take
Yeah.
a look at something that's not quite as popular, like the Tyson fight or whatever, and
Yeah.
like that had issues even holding it up. So imagine, you know, GTA's
Yeah,
audience.
definitely. Definitely. And that is a concern, is like, is this thing going to crash Netflix completely? And I know there has been some speculation recently as well of like, will GTA 6 get delayed again? I don't think it will, because I think if you look at it, they're in marketing swing now, and I don't think that, I would be very shocked if they reveal this gameplay at the end of August and say, yeah, our game that was scheduled to come out in 2 months is now delayed. Like, that would shock me. But then I do understand that the other way of thinking about that is they've waited so long to reveal gameplay, that is the reason they've waited so long is because they know that they're delaying the game. It's like, I do think, I'm not saying there's no chance that GTA 6 gets delayed again. I still think there is probably a 20% chance that it gets delayed again into like early next year instead. But I do think it's unlikely. I think most likely it's going to release in November on the 19th when they said it's going to release. They're taking pre-orders already.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, once a game starts taking pre-orders, they don't delay it unless it's a minor delay by like a few weeks or something like that. You know?
Hmm.
So, but speaking of Netflix, there is another Netflix story which is unusual. so, so what else has been going on at Netflix, Jeff?
Alrighty. Refactor Games, the studio behind Netflix's original FIFA World Cup game, has reportedly laid off the vast majority, if not all, of its staff. So GameSpeed in the latest update reports that 85 of the percent of the staff have been laid off from Refactor, according to its founder, Nathan Burba. The California-based studio, which is part owned by publisher Delphi Interactive and based on Delphi's Los Angeles headquarters, developed FIFA World Cup Launch Edition, which was released on June 11th. The game is exclusive to Netflix's streaming platform, meaning players with a Netflix subscription can stream the game to their TV and use their phones as controllers. Following its release, the game was officially panned and accused of being rushed so that it was ready in time for the opening game of the actual FIFA World Cup. Now, as reported by game developer, numerous Refactor developers have been taken to LinkedIn saying they've been laid off along with the rest of the team. Well, it looks like I'm back on the market looking for a job again, the game's art director, Barclay Chantel, wrote on the platform. Delphi just pulled the plug on Refactor Studios right after we shipped the World Cup game for Netflix. The entire studio was let go, so if anyone's looking for talent, I can put you in control or contact with some pretty awesome folks. Further people kind of are relating basically the same thing. In early June, a week before the release of FIFA World Cup Launch Edition, Netflix stated in a press release that the Launch Edition represents our kickoff and said it would evolve over time. It's now unclear whether this plan to have the game continually improve has been scrapped. Um, and yeah, like this is such a weird thing, especially for like Netflix wanting to get into games, especially those that um we're still kind of confused over the branding between FIFA and FC Club or whatever it's called. Like again, like rushing a game for the World Cup and then it getting panned and then the team getting let go is just like it's just business issues that you just don't do, right?
Yeah, but what I will say, so I agree with all of that. The one thing I would say is that the FIFA license left EA several years ago now. Okay, so
Yeah.
EA gave up the FIFA license several years ago now, and they changed their franchise to EAFC, right? And we're on the third or fourth edition of EAFC this year. So it's been several years since that license dropped. There was no need to be in a situation where this game had to be rushed. If you were trying to hit the next World Cup or the one that just obviously finished, you had several years to do so. Like it there's no need for this game to be rushed. So unless they sort of threw it together in like the last 12 months before the tournament, then, but that would be such a weird decision, not only on Netflix's part, but on FIFA's part. Like, okay, FIFA, I understand they don't make video games, right? But they did, but they had their license let out to a video game creator for literally decades. You would hope that they'd at least have some people there that understand the basics of how the industry and the process of making a game work, right? So
Hmm.
even they should have the people there that can say, like, we need at least 2 years to make this game a good thing, you know. So I get that I get that maybe they would be confused because they were like, oh hey, EA used to make these things every year, but not the first time they ever made a FIFA. They didn't. The first time they ever made a FIFA, it took more than a year to make it. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like that initial first time of making a sports game like this is always going to take more than that 12 months because you have to get a studio together, you have to get the people with the expertise, you have to decide the right engine, then you have to make the game. Like it's not as simple as that. So this sucks, but I also think that the main reason it sucks is I'm always for more people coming into the industry, right? Amazon, Netflix, whoever it is, because they create more job opportunities for developers and more opportunities for interesting and good games to be made. But right now, Netflix almost seems too focused on their own platform and effectively making mobile video games. And I get that, but I think Amazon very quickly have learned the lesson that, oh, if you want to be successful in games, you can't do that. You have to you have to sort of focus on where the people are because they're not going to come to your platform when you're making subpar games, right?
Hmm.
And it's like it's it, I get it because in Netflix's mind they're on everybody's phones anyway, so they think, "Oh, hey, if you've got a phone, you can just stream it to your whatever screen is nearest to you and you can play it using your phone." Yes, that's great, but mobile phone games are never going to be as good as a full on video game. You know, they're just not. Like, and I'm not saying mobile games are bad. They've clearly improved over the years, but they pull in less of an audience in certain genres of game, right? And like it's not like this is a match 3 World Cup game, you know?
Hmm.
This this was trying to be a FIFA video game, but to be a FIFA video game, there are certain expectations because at the end of the day, there was a franchise that was called FIFA that ran for over 2 decades, and there was also a competing franchise from Konami for much of that time, right?
Hmm.
So people know what good soccer slash football games are, and you can't make a subpar game in this day and age.
Well,
So
I think like if they had made like an actually really good soccer game, I think it
yeah,
could have been even more successful than in terms of like the amount of people that were playing FIFA, because again, like those are
yeah,
limited by people that can afford consoles, where
precisely,
everybody has a phone.
yeah.
So there
And
is
that's
a bigger audience to go after if you do
but
make a
that's
good mobile
exactly
game.
my point though. Is yes, it's fine to make games and utilize that audience, but you should be making games with the mindset of let's make good video games, not let's just make good mobile games. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because there is a difference between those two things. And yeah, like if they had like you've played some of the like I would use Amazon as an example, right? We know that Amazon is making the new Tomb Raider games. They're part of making the new Tomb Raider games, right?
Yeah.
And those games, from what we've seen, look good. They look like they're doing a good job. And
Oh yeah,
obviously, yes, it
Amazon's been making good video games for years.
yeah. And but when they first started, they were kind of making the same mistakes that Netflix was making. because they were trying to make games only for their own platform, and they were focusing on specific niches of ways of playing video games. And then when they branched out and said, hey, yeah, you can play this here, but you can also play it here, 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 and here. And we've actually designed this game in a way that it's going to be fun for everybody no matter where you play. That's kind of where they've become more successful, right? And that sort of feels to me where Netflix is failing at the moment. We've seen big investment from them in lots of studios, and let's be honest, this isn't the first time that we've seen a Netflix adjacent game studio basically shut down. At least this studio actually got to release something. Some of these studios at Netflix worked on things for years, got shut down, and never released anything. You know?
Yeah.
So I just would really like to see them focus on making good games first and then figure out where you're going to put it and how you're going to do it for the audience. Like, yes, you can have it have mobile controls, but why not make it playable with a controller as well? Why not partner up with somebody like, let's say, an Xbox and be like, hey, can we have like a license to allow your controller to officially support our video games? You know, because Xbox already do, like, you can use it to cloud, like in the cloud streaming form on your smart television. So clearly they are able to connect there. So it's like they're make it playable on a traditional controller. I think that would go a long way to opening up the audience to these games.
Mm-hmm.
But also aim for something that is aim for something that isn't just focused on capitalizing on that mobile crowd. You want that mobile crowd to be part of the experience that people also play the game in other places. I'll give you a good example, right? We just saw the Division, is it the Division Resurgence?
Mm-hmm.
Just released on PC,
PC.
and I believe and that's been on mobile for a while. But it's released on PC and it's actually doing quite well because it's a good video game
Yeah, it's
that
pretty good. And like I've been using, like I played it a couple times, and like I use
yeah.
this to kind of play it.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So like that's really nice. That's a nice way of playing it. But that is a game that is not just trying to be a mobile game. That's my point. Is like it's a game that is a Division video game. Like like if you said it fits right in with the other games. It's
It
what
it it definitely plays like a mobile game.
Yeah, no, I know it does,
Yeah.
but my point is, it still has more connection to a traditional video game
Mm.
than something like a Match 3 or a. Do you know what I mean? Like there you can see mobile game there, but they clearly weren't just aiming for mobile game. That's my point. Like we've seen a lot of video games in the past that launch on mobile first and then actually become quite successful later on other platforms. And that's the kind of thing I think Netflix need to start looking at maybe doing, because focusing on just that mobile audience clearly isn't going very well for them at the moment. you know?
Yeah.
So hopefully things can improve for them, and hopefully this studio survives and is able to make something else in the future. But what do we have up next in the news, Jeff?
Well, keeping with EA in the background there, Electronic Arts has announced that the completion of its acquisition is been completed, which now means that Saudi Arabia owns the lion's share of the company. EA confirmed in September of 2025 that it was going to be acquired by a group of private investors, including Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, the PIF. in a deal valuing the company at around $55 billion. Now, the company has announced that the deal has been completed, meaning it goes private again after 36 years and is now fully owned by an investor consortium comprised of PIF, Silver Lake, and Infinity Partners. The PIF, or Public Investment Fund, is the sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia and is reportedly central to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's goal of making the Saudi economy less reliant on proceeds from oil. The fund already owns billions of stock in other video game companies such as Take-Two and owns other companies such as SNK. So there's a lot to this story, obviously, with other investors,
Yes.
such as what is it, Jared Kushner now owning 1% of EA. So there's the Trump connection there. But yeah, so like the deal has gone through, so they own a majority stake, which means they obviously, in a lot of ways, just own EA now. Um, and we've seen, SNK, kind of coming back and doing a lot of things that they probably wouldn't have had to have been able to do before. I know a lot of people, including myself, were disappointed by the guest characters for the last SNK fighter, which were very heavily pushed into that game through the Saudi influence of people they
Yes.
know, and deals that way. So it's hard to say exactly, whether or not we're going to have some type of like famous DJ or footballer showing up at the cantina in
Yeah.
the next Star Wars game.
What I will say, so I look, w- it's always a weird one when things like this happen, because obviously, just as with any acquisition, there's always going to be concerns, right? What I would say is my only real concern around this one, because let's be honest, EA is a very successful company that already makes a lot of money, right? Like we mentioned FC earlier. Their FC franchise makes literally billions of dollars a year just through one mode in the video game, let alone the game sells itself, you know?
Yeah,
So I'm not concerned about the the kind of future of EA. I don't think Saudi's going to come in here, like they might cut some jobs, because when you invest this heavily and when you actually look into it, obviously this wasn't just the Saudis, it was also other people involved, right? It's
yeah.
a consortium. And from what I understand, they did actually leverage, so they borrowed quite a bit of money to get this deal done. And when you borrow money, that means you owe money, right? So if you owe money, you're going to be looking to save money in order to pay back what you owe,
It's
and
the old
and
TKO
still make
principle.
money. Yeah. So yes, there probably will be some job cuts. There always are when there's an acquisition of any kind, because they'll come in, they'll look at it, and they'll go, where do we feel like we don't need people? What are things that we feel are not worth it? But my real concern is EA already monetized their video games a lot, especially their sports titles, right? And
Yeah,
I would hate to see those games become overly monetized to the point where they basically become pay to win slash pay to play video games, right? Because you could argue the Ultimate Team is like that already in FC, for example, or in Madden or any of the other titles. But the counter argument is ultimately in those modes, in those games, if you're playing them all the time and that is what you play, you can still earn basically everything through playing the game, right?
yeah.
I can see a situation potentially with the new ownership where that's no longer the case, and maybe you're going to end up having to pay extra money for certain things. So I do have concerns over that, and then what I would say is my other concern, especially because they're very upfront and they say that this deal is about trying to basically find them a way of making money that isn't just based on oil, right? That's what the whole sovereign wealth fund is for, and it's like everything to them is about making money, which I'm not going to complain about that. That's the way of the world that we live in. But it does scare me when I then think, does that mean they're going to get rid of EA's single player games? Because we've already been through a period where EA moved away from single player games. And
I
then
don't
when they
think they will.
started doing single player games again, they were really good, you know? So are they gonna move away from that again? I don't know. But it does concern me. It definitely concerns me. How do you feel about it all, Jeff?
I don't think they'll get rid of single player games. I think that those are still showing that they're profitable. I think that if they weren't profitable, that would be a different story. But yeah, I can see certain aspects of the monetization, getting worse, whether or not they're going to turn Battlefield into a gotcha or other aspects of it.
Yeah.
Although Genshin Impact Battlefield would be pretty damn cool. Um, um, yeah, like I think it's one of those things where it's like we can speculate until the end of time, but until there's like actual concrete evidence that it's leaning a certain way, I think that there's,
Yeah.
um, you know, we
And
can
the
we can
other
doom
thing
and
I
gloom until the end of the day, but
and the other thing I will say that kind of leads into what I want to say is that I understand that many people push back against anything involving Saudi Arabia due to political reasons, okay? And I get that, and I get that the country has things about it that are maybe questionable. But at the same time, when you take that stuff as its own sector of things, because if we're saying that politics impacts and affects everything, then we have to consider it all the time across all cases. And nobody does that. They only make things political when it's something they don't agree with, right? So what I would say is when you take the politics part away from it, judge their ownership of properties like this based on purely what the company does under their ownership. Like Jeff said, like we can speculate till the end of time, but it doesn't mean things are going to be bad. Like they might. There is a chance. There is actually a situation where potentially they leave EA largely to run the way it's been running because the company already makes so much money, right? Like, this isn't a, quite frankly, this isn't a Bethesda situation where when Bethesda got taken over by Microsoft, they were struggling financially. They had problems with the way their business was being run, and that is why there were more changes over at Bethesda, right? So it's but because EA is a very successful company, there's less need for change over there. And if anything, like I've said, they're gonna lean into the stuff that already makes EA a lot of money and just do more of it. The question is, how much more of it do they do? How egregious do they become? And this isn't even connected to them, but a recent story about EA was about the college football franchise and about how they tried to effectively monetize a single player mode in the game, right? They took away being able to upgrade or adjust your coach through sliders and stuff in the game, and they basically monetized that entire system, and then when people complained about it, they've gone on to kind of remove that stuff. So
Hmm.
it's like, so it's also that thing of it's going to be hard to judge as well because EA is clearly thinking about other monetization before this deal has even happened,
Yeah.
you know? So
Well, I
there are
mean,
going to be
they knew that they were
certain
going to be
things.
a little bit in debt as well too, because I was
Yeah.
reading that yeah, like they're still going to be in debt by like 19 million or 19 billion or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So
yeah,
so it is what it is. Obviously, we'll wait to see. I think for me, as someone who has played a lot of EA games over the years, my main hope is that they just keep all of the core franchises active and they don't over monetize. Like, I think at this point, it's sad to say, but it's true. We've accepted monetization in the sports titles in particular, but I do think there's a line between monetization in those games that's acceptable and monetization that pushes things too far. And I'm hoping they don't cross that line. That's the one thing I would hope for personally.
yeah.
But away from EA, what else do we have to talk about this week, Jeff?
All right. This one will be interesting. More cast members from the Legend of Zelda movie have been named in a new report. Also related to this, wait, is The Rock playing Ganondorf? Kind of. According to Deadline sources, the role of Ganondorf is will be played by Australian actor Uli Latukefu, best known as the actor who played the teenage and adult versions of Dwayne Johnson in the TV series Young Rock. Um, Latukefu, who also starred in Marco Polo and played Herat in the Black Adam movie, has reportedly signed a multi-picture deal suggesting he will play Ganondorf in multiple live-action films. Deadline then published a second report naming three more cast members, including Sam Neill, who passed away last month, and the report couldn't confirm which role he plays in the film. My guess probably plays the king. I would assume the king of Hyrule.
Yeah, yeah, I would assume. I think
Or
that's a good
maybe
guess.
he plays the guy who is the hey, it's dangerous out there. Take this guy, the guy in the cave.
That would be hilarious if he was that guy.
The Zelda movie wrapped filming in April, which means it could be the final screen performance from Neil, whose storied career in films includes Jurassic Park, um, The Hunt for Red October, and Event Horizon, among other films. The publication also stated that Deacon Lockman, who plays Mr. Casey in Severance, will play Zelda's guardian and mentor Impa, while Yvonne Stravotsky from Chuck will also appear as a Queen character. The report isn't more specific than this. Nintendo already confirmed that the movie will star Benjamin Evan Amesworth as Link and Bo Brackison as Zelda, who were shown in the first official photos of the film last year. Um, yeah, so like I don't mind him as Ganon. We'll have to see what the makeup and the portrayal,
Yeah.
like the type of thing. Sorry, these stupid
Well,
flies coming in because
that's
the window's open.
that's absolutely a key thing, right? It's like what does the actual makeup and character look like on the screen? Because an actor can do a brilliant job playing a character, but if the character doesn't look right, it doesn't matter. Like it's kind of like it's kind of like the Sonic situation. You know, you do you remember that original reveal of the Sonic movie and how
Oh yeah,
people really pushed back against that?
I mean that classic character from the Rescue Rangers movie. Yeah, I remember Ugly Sonic.
So it's so yeah, so you know, we'll wait and see. But in terms of video game adjacent castings, I did see an interesting report recently. So you may remember a little while ago we talked about how the actor who was cast as Kratos in God of War, Ryan Hurst, has
Yeah,
actually had to pull out of the project because of injury
or like
after
Ryan
they
Harris.
had after they had actually filmed a few episodes already from what I understand
Yeah,
and then he got injured and it sounds like maybe he's being replaced by Dave Bautista, who wrestling fans of course know, but
Just went
also
from
Marvel
worst to
fans know
worst.
as Drax. I mean, I like Dave Bautista, and we do know that he's a gaming fan. We do know that he's a gaming fan.
Yeah, thank
I
God he
don't.
didn't play Marcus Phoenix. Whew, they were so good.
But yeah, like I like him as Drax. I think he's good in some of the other movies that he does as well. I'll be interested to see his take on the character of Kratos, but I don't know that he would have been I don't know that he would have been my first choice. Like he certainly would have been on the list somewhere, but I don't know that
Well, he's
he
got
would
to
have been
build
my
up
first
that
choice.
muscle because he's lost a lot over the
And
years.
that's kind of my big concern, right? Like we know, and credit to him for this, he chose to slim down in order to get other acting roles, right? Because he has proven that he can be a very good actor. He's done some really good performances and he has range. But as you said, Jeff, a key component of the character of Kratos is being almost like freakishly muscly, right? Like a freak of nature, if you
Like he
will.
would have to go back to his Drax figure pretty much to be able to play
Yeah,
um, Kratos and stuff. But I
yeah.
mean, yeah, because like all they basically have to do is reshoot the stuff that where the actor is on screen with other characters, and then reshoot the stuff where it's just a shot of him, essentially.
Mhm,
You know, so
mhm.
like there is like substantial reshoots that they kind of have to go around it, but I
Yeah,
almost wonder if like because of the timetable they had to settle on somebody like right away.
maybe. I mean, but I also wonder whether, because let's remember with castings, it's never like a hey, we're taking you. There, even when Ryan Hurst originally got the part, there would have been other people up for the role. There would have been other people that were, that auditioned for the role, and there might have
Yeah.
even been
But
people
I
that
mean in
actually had a screen
timetables
test.
of like other actors that are involved in the project going, "Hey, I can record this up until November and then I have a movie for Netflix."
Yeah, for sure. So they might have had to rush. But I do know, we don't know what the exact timetable is. From what I've heard, they're going to be starting filming again in October. So, so they do have a couple of months.
Yeah.
Whether and people and my good friend Fighting Cowboy from the Between Levels podcast will tell people one thing people don't understand is that if you've had muscle previously, it's actually a lot quicker to rebuild muscle tissue than it is to gain that muscle tissue initially. That being said, I don't know whether Dave Bautista can put on the size that's required to do the role justice in the course of 2 months, especially being the age that he is now. Because when you're older, these things take longer, right? Like if this guy was still in his late 30s, early 40s, absolutely, I would have no doubt that he could do it. But this guy is pretty old now, And yeah, so I have concerns over that. As you said, perhaps they were in a bit of a rush, but that also makes me wonder if that was the case, did they choose Dave because he was close to the role originally anyway? You know? And that's kind of the point I'm making is like, for example, we know that if we go to the Marvel movies, we know that Tom Hiddleston initially almost got the role of Thor, right? Before being given the role of Loki instead, he actually got to the point of having a screen test for the role of Thor.
Hmm.
So so there would have been other actors that screen tested for the role of Kratos, I would imagine. And given that being the case, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they kind of went back to those other people that were screen tested, because you normally get like the final 4 people that are in contention for a role will usually be screen tested, from what I understand. And they probably went to those 3 other people and went, hey, who can do this? Because we need someone to be able to do it right now, because we're going to have to recast the whole show effectively, and do it all again, you know? So it could have been a situation like that. It could have been a situation where Dave was the first choice anyway. Like, Dave was the first choice that came to their mind. Who knows? But I am interested to see it. You sound like you're not as big of a fan of Dave Bautista over there,
Yeah,
Jeff.
I've just never been a fan, even wrestling and stuff like that. I've just never been a huge fan of Dave Bautista. There's been nothing he's in that I've been like entirely wowed by.
Fair.
But I mean,
Do
like
you
I
not do you
wasn't
not like his performance as Drax? Are you not a fan of his Drax?
stupid flies. No, his Drax is underpowered and just fucking stupid. James Gunn just turned
That
that character into a joke.
that is fair. That is fair, actually.
Like
That
this
is
is this is a
fair.
character in the comic that went one on one with Thanos. Can you imagine that Drax going one on one with Thanos? This stupid fly.
Thanos would just like slap him away. He would literally slap him away the way that you're slapping that fly away right now.
Oh, I want to kick its ass. Nix, come over here and hunt the fly. So stupid.
So
So
yeah, so
stupid.
it's interesting. I mean, like I said, the thing that I do like about the casting for sure is that I think it's always nice when when you cast an actor to play a role that's from a game. It's nice for that actor to be a gamer themselves, because even if they haven't played that specific game, they understand a bit more about gaming culture. They understand a little bit more about what gamers might expect from an adaptation of a game, right? And yeah, I mean, Dave. Well, we don't actually know who's going to be in the Netflix Gears of War stuff currently, but Dave might not have got his GOW Gears of War role, but it sounds like he does have a GOW role in God of War.
Well,
So,
from one GOW to one GOW.
so it is what it is. But what else do we have on the news today, Jeff?
All right, so we'll do this news and then we'll go into the other news and then talk about the game just immediately after that. Oh, this fly! I'm gonna kill it. It's gonna die. A veteran Assassin's Creed developer has returned to Ubisoft after 5 years to become the game director for the entire Assassin's Creed brand. Epic or Eric what is it? Baptizat.
I'm not sure
Joined
how you say it either. Yeah, I know, I know.
Eric.
But yes, Eric has
Eric.
returned.
Eric is back. Joined Ubisoft in 2005 and stayed there for 16 years. During that time, he was the lead game designer on Assassin's Creed Black Flag, senior game designer on Assassin's Creed Unity, and project lead on the game designer of Assassin's Creed Origins, and game director on Valhalla. After this, Eric left Ubisoft and joined EA Motive Studio, where he was game director on the critically acclaimed Dead Space remake, well as one of the game designers or game directors on Battlefield 6. Now, as announced on LinkedIn by Assassin's Creed's head of content, Jean Guston, Eric has returned to Ubisoft after 5 years to lead on game director for the series going forward. Thrilled to share some exciting news, Guston wrote. After an incredible professional journey, including 16 years at Ubisoft and then leading the critically acclaimed Dead Space remake at EA Motive, Eric is coming back to Assassin's Creed family as a new game director for the brand. Eric needs no introduction to the universe. 16 years at Ubisoft, key contributions to Black Flag, Origins, and Valhalla as game director. His passion for gameplay craft and his deep connection to this franchise speak for themselves. Seeing someone with his expertise, his rigor, and collaborative spirit step into this role fills me with confidence and honestly a lot of excitement for what's ahead for the brand. Welcome back, Eric. We're so glad to have you home. So, I mean, yeah, like you, yeah, again, you have a guy that is, tried and true for this series, even though Valhalla was way too long.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's
you
exactly
know,
where I was going to go with it. That's where I was actually going to start. So this guy is taking over basically the overall direction of the Assassin's Creed series, right? The
yeah,
Assassin's Creed brand. That's effectively what his role is going to be. And while he clearly has a lot of experience with the franchise, doing various roles across various different games, that excites me. That part excites me. What concerns me slightly is that the game that he was a director of, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, was the most bloated Assassin's Creed game of all time. And it while it was a good game to some extent, that bloat for many people made it unplayable because I know so many people that played lots of hours of Valhalla and never ever finished it, you know?
yeah,
So and I just would have a concern that given that we know that that's as the game director, yes, he wouldn't have been the only one making the decisions, but the ultimate decision to make the game an RPG in that style, which was a much deeper RPG than the other RPGs they've done, but also resulted in an overly bloated game, I would just have concerns of is that where the rest of the franchise is going to go? Because if you ask me, Jeff, and you might not agree, but I personally feel like the last couple of Assassin's Creed releases, probably the last three, if you look at Mirage, Shadows, and then obviously Black Flag Resynced most recently, they have been on, in my opinion, kind of an upward trend again with the franchise. You know, like Mirage was a very good game, but a shorter, more condensed experience.
yeah,
Black Flag Resynced is a great remake, probably one of the better ones in the industry, period. And then we had Shadows, which, although there are some issues with that game, it did deliver on a lot of things. It and it and it and it struck a really good balance between newer style RPG Assassin's Creed and actually being an Assassin's Creed game, which some of the other RPG Creed games haven't really been, right?
yeah.
So so yeah, I think they've been on a good trend for the franchise overall. And obviously we know that Assassin's Creed Hex is happening. That's some sort of Witch Trials adjacent game. And I'm sure that Eric will have some impact on that because that game's not going to be out till at least next year.
Yeah.
For
He'll put the
if
magic
the
back in after the magic was removed.
but I'm excited, but at the same time, I couldn't sit here and say I'm not apprehensive when you think that the guy who's leading the franchise is the guy that also directed, as I said, the most bloated game in the entirety of the franchise, right? Like, that is a concern. But then at the same time, he also served as director on a game that we both loved, Jeff, which was the remake of Dead Space.
Yeah.
So maybe this is actually a really good move for the Assassin's Creed franchise and Ubisoft.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that some of the stuff's kind of already locked in, at least for the next couple of years. So I don't think we'll
Yeah,
see most of his big changes for quite some time, without seeing like massive delays in certain games for restructuring shit.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely agree with you. So it's going to be interesting to see what the future holds with that. It's definitely one that we'll be keeping an eye on. Like myself and Jeff always play an Assassin's Creed game when they drop. We always actually end up both reviewing them, which is quite funny. So I'm sure that we'll be covering much more Assassin's Creed in the future.
Oh yeah.
But what other news do we have today, Jeff? I think we have one more news piece left, right?
Yeah, this fly is gonna die. That's the news piece.
That's the news
Um,
piece.
that's
Jeff's
the
gonna
news
kill a
piece.
fly
Yeah,
live on the
massive layoffs,
podcast.
massive fly layoffs at the Jeff household. All right. So Game Freak says it's listening to player feedback on Beast of Reincarnation and is planning a number of updates. The game was released on Monday with critical response being generally positive, if not overwhelmingly so, as the Metacritic score sits at around 73. Players are divided on their initial opinion of the game. User reviews on Steam are currently sitting at mixed, with 53% of the 1,600 reviews submitted so far considered positive. Game Freak has now posted a message via its official account on Twitter informing players that it's listening to their criticisms and taking them on board as they work on continuous updates. Thank you for playing Beast of Reincarnation. We take your feedback to heart and currently planning a series of continuous updates. Please continue to share your feedback and suggestions with us. The first patch, which is planned to release within a week, will implement the following changes. There will be changes to camera adjustments, as well as increased text size, story pacing improvements with ongoing adjustments planned, changing the default setting from cinematic to performance, and other bug fixes. Um, Beast of Reincarnation is something of a departure for Game Freak, which is best known for the Pokemon games. The studio confirmed in the past, however, that its actually Beast of Reincarnation team was relatively small, with development outsourced to numerous other studios. So here's the thing. So any of the issues that they have coming in the next like week or so, whatever, those aren't the issues with the game. And we can jump into our thoughts on the game here, which will pretty much be for the most part kind of our only big game to kind of talk about today, just because most of the other stuff
Yes.
we're under
I
embargo for.
guess I guess I will start because I actually reviewed the game for us.
Yeah,
Um, but as you have also read my review, Jeff, so you clearly know what some of the issues are. So I'm sure you can speak on those as well because you have played a bit of the game.
yeah,
But the the problem with the game is that quite simply, and I explained this on my other podcast as well this week. The problem with the game is that for everything it does well, there's something else that's holding it back. There's something else that sort of gets in the way, right? As we have Nix here coming on to the podcast,
get the fly.
getting. But for example, I'll give you an example. The exploration in the game is really really good. I like
I just
using the
wish it had a mini map.
vines. Yeah, so I like using the vines, getting up to different places, being able to extend them out to reach other little platforms and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's really cool. Actually traversing around the world is really cool, but exploring and getting up to these heights and stuff very rarely, if ever, gives you a meaningful reward. Like, most of the time, you're gonna find like a chicken egg or some other rubbish, you
yeah.
know?
It feels like a lot of the exploration is meant to kind of combat annoyances more so than exploration. So like, oh, I fell off this. Okay, well, here's a way of getting back up.
Yes, yeah. And then in terms of the combat, I actually really enjoy the combat. It's very very fun. I would say that if you get even half decent at parrying, I do think the combat is quite easy. But it's again what holds back the combat, I would say, is that there are certain things that just don't even make sense or need to be there, right? So like one of the things that my friend Cowboy figured out is you have status effects in this game, so you can burn enemies, right?
Yeah.
But if you're burning an enemy, you can't also apply poison to them at the same time. So you can build up the poison meter, but it will sit on 99% complete, and you can't tick it up to fully active until the burn is no longer active.
Mm.
So each enemy can only have one status effect applied at a time. So what's
Yeah.
the point of having builds that allow you to build up multiple status effects? You know, it's kind of pointless. And then the other point about the game is you've got this fun combat and you've got a leveling system which feeds into that with skills and things like that. But then even if you're exploring and doing everything, you only really get enough levels and XP and stuff to fill out maybe half of your skill tree at the most if you're lucky. So you actually there's a lot of skills that you will never use unless you're playing this game multiple times. Okay,
Mm.
and yes, there is a new game plus for people that want to know that. Like, there is a new game plus, but again, it's just like I and I mentioned it in my review, and they have clearly taken this feedback into account. The pacing is so bad, and it gets worse towards the end to the point where if I wasn't reviewing the game, and I can say this now, if I wasn't reviewing the game 5 hours before the end, I would have stopped playing it. I would have stopped playing it and I wouldn't have played it again. And it's the first game in a while that I have enjoyed, but I've also been glad it was over, you
Mm.
know? And I have no intention of going back and playing it until there are substantial improvements, because even this first patch, they mentioned some things they're going to be fixing, but this goes no, this is going to take months for them to get the game in the place where it could have been. Like this, playing this game, you will see that it had potential to be a great or even an amazing video game. Like there's potential there
It feels
of
like this
something really special.
year's Stellar Blade, but without the actual, like, I guess, polish and kind of finesse to make
I
that
agree.
game vastly
Yeah.
enjoyable. And the one my take on this game, and it's going to sound kind of weird, um, and you kind of have to think about it. Um, so when you start this game, it kind of starts out of place, and they kind of do some flashbacks and stuff to kind of get you into the story. But the first couple hours of the game, it almost feels like, all right, so imagine there was an Xbox 360 game that you played about 16 hours of, and it's a 40 or 50 or 80-hour game. So you're fair ways in. And then imagine you're like, oh, I've got some time off. I'm going to go back and play that game. And then you load it up. You kind of don't know what's going on. You're kind of getting used to the systems. You're kind of playing things around. And then eventually you get back into it and you're like, oh, okay, now I know why I stopped playing this. It feels like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it feels like it's a game that you've played before, but not in the way of like, oh, I've played games with the systems before. It's like the moment you start that game, it feels like you're kind of jumping into a save file that's like 6 or 7 hours in.
Yeah. Yeah. But that leads into the fact that the pacing's all over the place, right?
Yeah, and I think the skill tree is also, it feels detached from the gameplay as well too. I don't feel
Yeah.
like it has, like, I mean, I get, yeah, you get different abilities and stuff you can add on and
But you
stuff,
don't
but
even
it
need to
doesn't,
use those abilities. That's the
no,
thing.
it
Like,
doesn't feel connected really.
yeah, I completely agree, and I like I I'm not saying this is a bad game, and if you haven't read my
Yeah.
review, I'm gonna spoil the score right now, but I gave it a 7.5 because I think this is a better than good video game. But it's not any like in a month's time, no one's gonna be talking about this video game, and that is really really disheartening because I wished the best for Game Freak with this game. Like Game Freak,
Yeah,
free from the shackles of Nintendo and Pokemon, what could they really achieve? And it feels like they're and this is gonna sound disparaging to them, but I don't mean it in this way. It feels like their lack of experience away from Nintendo held back this game from what it could really be.
Yeah, and I will say too, like the dialogue is so it doesn't flow ever. It doesn't matter if you're having a conversation between the character and stuff. There's these long pauses
Yeah,
where like
yeah,
it just doesn't feel like they're like people are having like natural conversations. Um and like some of the performances, like I'm playing on in English obviously, but the voice of like that Kagura or whatever, that little girl, whatever, just doesn't feel like it flows naturally with everything. Like it's such an awkward game to listen to the dialogue play out and the conversations play out because they don't feel like natural conversations. Um but I mean, like I do like the wolf stuff and the the um the vine kind of traversal and that kind of stuff's fun, even though it is like there are moments where they want you to use it, and then there are very direct moments where they don't want you to use it because they won't put any type of like clinging ability up on a certain spot because they don't want you to go there. So
yes.
like it doesn't feel like Breath of the Wild or like Tears of the Kingdom where they're
Yeah,
like,
you
yeah, just
haven't got
go
full
wherever you want.
freedom. Yeah, yeah,
Like it feels like, it feels like an amusement park, where like there are set areas where they want you to explore and there's set areas where they don't want you to
yeah,
explore. Even though they kind of still, again, it's like having a VIP pass in an amusement park. There's areas where you're just
yeah.
not able to go.
What
Um,
what I want to be very clear about as well is this game is on Game Pass, and if you have Game Pass, I would recommend going and playing at least the few like play the first few hours, see what you think of it, because there is fun to be had in this video game. But as Jeff said and kind of alluded to earlier, I can kind of see it being a game that a lot of people play for a few hours, maybe stop playing because they get busy, and then never actually have the like never have that thing pulling them back to it, you know?
Yeah, like I've got other games that I'm playing. I definitely want to give some time to toke on. There's physical media for
Yes.
you. Um, you
The
know,
last ever, well, one of the last ever physical
this
PlayStation
guy as
games,
well too.
Adventures of Elliot. Lovely.
Um, yeah, like it is still fun, but yeah, like I have no drive to play. Like, I'm playing a game right now, which both of us are playing. We can't really talk about.
Yes.
But even then, like, you know, my ADHD is sometimes where I'll play for like 2 hours and then I'll take like a YouTube break or whatever, and then I'll do other things and stuff. But there's no like drive of me going like, well, hey, well, maybe I'll go back and play Beast of Reincarnation for a little while because like even once
I
this is done,
yeah.
I'll be jumping into playing like Mortal Shell, when that eventually drops because I've only been playing
Yeah.
the demo, which gives
Precisely.
me the
Yeah.
first 3 hours of the game.
Which is
Um,
which is which is nice. Let's be honest. Like that demo is a really good demo. Like
yeah, yeah.
talk a bit about your experience with it, Jeff.
Yeah, so like Mortal Shell is the sequel to Mortal Shell. I don't believe it's connected at all. I think they've completely changed the world and lore. I think it's entirely something different. And then you kind of start off as this kind of like almost like creature type of thing where you're going around and you're collecting these like eggs that have been scattered all over the place and stuff, and you're basically bringing them back to have them in this place. But the demo gives you the first 3 hours of the game, and the save file does transfer over. So that's one thing that's really nice is this is the first 3 hours of the game. There are some areas that are cut off where you'll just hit invisible walls. Speaking of invisible walls, Beast of Reincarnation is fucking filled with them.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah, it's like don't go deep in the town. Okay. Oh, I guess I
Yeah.
can't go deep in the town. All right. Um, but no, like the only issue that I have with Mortal Shell is the same issue I have had with Code Vein 2, and one of the reasons why I stopped playing it is the these games are so much better in co-op, and there's no co-op in Mortal Shell like it is just a single player game. So if you're playing these types of games and you play co-op because you're generally getting carried by someone else so you can continue playing it, it's one of the reasons why I love Lords of the Fallen, and I think it's my favorite Souls-like. Um, this game doesn't have that, so you are directly focused on survivability through yourself, and the combat still feels, you know, pretty good. Like it feels crunchy and meaty and other in ways that some of the other Souls likes don't quite have.
Yes.
I haven't played around too much with some of the other weapons or other shells. Like I just found the thief shell, um,
Nice.
just
Nice.
laying about and whatnot, and it's been fun for what I've played of it so far. And like, when the full game releases, because I think it's hitting Game Pass. I think
It might be. I'm not sure. I'd have to
I'm not.
check.
Yeah, because I know the first one
But
did. But yeah,
yeah.
like we are good friends with
I I
people.
mean I can say that we will be covering it. I can't tell you when. I can't tell you
Yeah,
anything else.
yeah,
What I can say is that if you haven't played the beta, I really recommend it because it that first 3 hours shows you most of all that there's a massive jump in quality between the first original Mortal Shell game and Mortal Shell 2. Like, it feels like a much bigger budget game. They've clearly put more money behind it. The original development team has come back and is working on it. Like Jeff said, like one of the selling points of Mortal Shell, if you haven't played it, one of the things that makes it different is you have these different shells that affect the way that you play the game. Like, some of them are heavier and slower, some of them are fast,
yeah. And
and
you
they
get
all.
you get knocked out, and then it's kind of like a second life,
Yes, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And
That's I've always liked that feature because it's like you don't immediately die. It's like, hey,
yeah,
you're
you
out of the
you
shell
do
now.
have to you do have to build up like an attack meter essentially to get back in the shell.
Yes,
And you do have like a gun,
you do. You do.
which does pretty decent damage when you're fighting things and stuff, and it's especially good for like flying enemies and whatnot.
For sure.
Um, but no, like it's the demo of what I've been able to play has been pretty good. Like it's been
Yeah,
it's
and I
been
I would
pretty
really
decent.
recommend with it being a demo, it's free to try, right? You have nothing to lose. I really recommend going and downloading it. It's now available on Xbox and PlayStation and also PC as well. So the demo is available on all the platforms the game is going to launch onto. We will have coverage of it closer to launch. Can't tell you when or where, but look forward to that. There will definitely be coverage of the game. We are, of course, for full disclosure, we are, of course, good friends with Naman, aka MBZ, who does work for the publisher of Mortal Shell 2, Playstack. But that is not going to affect any of our opinions or discussions that we have about the game. We will give you our very honest feedback on it. There is something else I've also been playing that I can talk a little bit about. I've only played a small amount of it, but you held it up just now, Jeff. Marvel Tokon, Fighting Souls. I have played probably around half an hour, 40 minutes. I did the kind of training sequence that has you play as Captain America, and kind of got a general sense for how the game is going to work and play.
Yeah, I
And
played
what
some of
I
the
would,
beta as well.
yeah, and what I would say is So far, I'm quite impressed. I like the character designs. I like the art style. It feels very comic book appropriate, but
Yeah,
like they're
they
doing their own thing.
have you played any of the story stuff?
Not yet, but I will be.
Play it, and I want to get your opinion on the art
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
because like I
So
played
yeah.
some of the Spider-Man story stuff, and I think the artwork for the comic book stuff absolutely sucks.
Wow. Okay. I'll have a look into it and see what we think. But yeah. But what I want to say, what impressed me most of all so far, is that I think that if you're someone like me who enjoys a fighting game, but is a more casual player, from a gameplay perspective, I actually think this game toes a really interesting line where it's one of the most approachable for new casual players of fighting games, but I can see that there's going to be a high sort of skill ceiling there as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and for people that are kind of wondering about like what this game kind of plays like, because Marvel's been mostly associated with like Capcom fighters and all that kind of stuff. This does feel like an Arc System Works greatest hits of the things that they've done before. But
It
if you want to
does.
compare it to something they've done before that plays very similar, it plays a lot like Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Um,
Yes, it does. I
like
didn't even think of that, but you're
it
right.
is, it is very much just like that, but with Marvel characters. There are
Yeah.
some differences in how like the tag thing functions, and because it's a 4-on-4 fighter, but you have to like build up um kind of your meter to get those other characters, and you can get them either like from like a victory or like punching characters to like another part of the level. It'll unlock, it'll be like blade unlocked, and whatnot. And it's got a pretty interesting cast, even though some of the teams don't quite make sense.
I
You know,
agree.
like,
I agree.
um, like I know people are expecting Fantastic Four since it's a 4-on-4 fighter, but I can guarantee you the next team that has any Fantastic Four characters, there's probably only going to be two Fantastic Four characters in that team. um it'll be something else because like none of the teams kind of really make too much sense. Like the Amazing Guardians basically is like Miss Marvel, Penny Parker, Spider-Man, and Star-Lord. So like, it doesn't kind of make sense to a certain extent.
Yeah.
The amazing Avenger, or the Avengers, or whatever they call themselves in that one, is obviously Avengers characters and stuff, and X-Men characters and their teams and stuff. But um the art design is pretty fun. The one thing that I think is kind of lazy though is when you're playing in the X-Men stage, you have characters like Wolverine and Storm that have all been redesigned, but then in the background you just have regular design Psylocke, regular design Gambit, regular design Rogue. Like none of those characters have the cool new designs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that part's kind of lazy.
Yeah,
But
I
the
agree
stages
with
are
that.
still fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, this game, I can imagine this game being a massive success because it's a good fighting game from what I've played so far. It's Marvel. It's
Well, I've
gonna
heard the
speak
the
to.
PC build is kind of inconsistent. Like some people are having troubles getting 60 FPS.
Yeah, so the PC build is having some issues for people, but I know quite a few people that are actually playing it personally, and the people that I know haven't had any issues so far. But there are definitely some issues. So check those Steam reviews. They're mixed right now. There are definitely some issues out there, but like also it's that typical thing of some of these Steam reviews. Let's be very honest, are complaining about things that are not really worth complaining about. Quite frankly, um, so it sort of goes both ways, right? But talking about a game that hasn't really had any such issues, I do want to get your initial impressions, Jeff, on Adventures of Elliot, because as you know, I really really enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
You've just played the first little bit of it. I think you're probably about an hour in, something like that. how are you finding it so far? What do you think of it?
It's actually really fun. The only issue I think I have with it is I wish the slashing moved you a little bit forward than the stationary um kind of locking in it does, because there's sometimes where I feel like I'm hitting a character but knocking them back or whatever, but then my momentum doesn't carry me forward to continue to slash at them.
Yes. Yeah.
And I do kind of wish that you could zoom in the camera a little bit, because I feel that it zooms out a little too much.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
But no, like other than that, I like the fact that everything is kind of voiced, or at least the majority of what I've basically played is
So
voiced.
everything, from what I can remember, everything is voiced. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But like no, it's been really fun so far. It definitely has that like kind of charm. Like I'm fully expecting the first guy that kind of gives evil vibes to be part of said evil aspects of it, just because like when you meet
interesting.
him, whatever, and it's kind of like, oh, blah 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 blah, and the king's like, no, we should blah 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 blah, and this guy's like, like, oh wow, gee, I wonder if that guy's gonna be evil. Shit, like he might as well
Yeah.
just twirl his fucking mustache at me.
For sure. For sure.
Um, but it is what it is. But I mean, like that guy, like 100% is fucking
Yeah.
turning evil. Um, but no, it's been pretty good so far. Again, I'm very early on.
Yes.
Just because like I was all set to play it this weekend, because I didn't really have too much to play, and then
And then
all of a
things came
sudden,
in.
you know, something kind of
Yeah.
sunk into my inbox, and there I'm at right now.
For sure, for sure. But I definitely want to keep the people who watch and listen to this podcast updated on your adventures with Elliot.
The
Um,
continuity, and it is
because
a game key card for anybody wondering.
nice,
Even if you have the physical one, it is just one where you have to download it, which I don't care.
fantastic, fantastic. But yeah, I, as you know, really liked it. I'm keen to hear what you think of it as you play more. Because I really do think, and maybe this is me getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I think it's got a chance of winning at least a couple of our awards at the end of the year. So, one thing you didn't mention there, but I'm sure you will as you play more. I really liked the music of the game. Like the music, just something connected with me in the music of Adventures of Elliot. And
Yeah, I'll get to it more. Again, I've only played, maybe about an hour.
yeah.
There was
I
like an
guess the
invisible
I
wall
guess
thing
the
I kind
one
of.
advantage is having it on Switch. You can at least take that to work with you and play it as well,
Yeah,
which is which is
the
nice.
one of the big points is taking this portable and stuff and whatnot. Like again, like the screen, like with the zoom out and stuff like that, basically that's definitely going to be something for like Switch, whereas on PC you can play on a big monitor and
Yeah,
whatnot.
you could
um
use those VITURE glasses, Jeff.
yeah, let me see if it oh wait, I'm at a story moment here. See if I can show you how small the character was. All right, so it's going to zoom out, I think. Oh, the voice acting is really good. Yeah, the ambience of the game is really good. But I mean, like, that's how tiny
Ah,
your
yeah,
character
it's very, yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. So
is.
on the small, I didn't even think about that when I was playing it, but yeah, on the small Switch screen, that the character must look pretty small.
Yeah, I just kind of wish you could zoom in even like 30% or something like
Yeah,
that. Just
for
to kind
sure,
of,
that would be helpful. But yeah, that will pretty much do it for this episode. I'm just looking at the calendar because I'm trying to figure out what I can and cannot say. But next episode we should have some more interesting things to speak about. But next episode also might be delayed slightly, so you might not get next episode next week exactly. It might be slightly more than a week before you get the next episode of the Gaming Mix podcast, but we should have some very, very interesting things to speak about. So, who knows? Keep a eye peeled on analogstickgaming.com. We've got reviews and news and other things coming soon. As I said, our colleague James is working on a review of an indie game for us right now that I don't remember the name of off the top of my head, but it's a retro style Australian rules football type of video game with power ups and crazy stuff. So that's going to be dropping soon. I am working on something for review for us. So is Jeff. So we should have multiple reviews coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
And
I'll
then I
have
think other
I'll
people are
have
working on stuff for us as well.
yeah, Rebecca's playing some of that what is it? Moon something Peaks. I can't remember the exact of it.
Interesting.
Which has already been released. I've got reviews coming out on the 11th and 13th for some games that are going to be dropping relatively soon. But yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, it's a busy time here at Analog Stick Gaming and the Gaming Mix podcast. But as we close in on 100 episodes, I'd like to ask you that if you have not subscribed already, please do so. We've got some interesting things coming up. I'm still working on arranging some very interesting interviews that should be happening in the second half of the year. And we of course have many, many game releases to cover during September and October and even beyond. So it's going to be a really interesting and busy time. I think I might have to somehow turn into Jeff and do like 20 reviews in a month. It's going to
I think
be
my rec is like 13 still. I don't think it's 20.
that's crazy. This man is crazy. He's reviewed 13 games in a
There was
month.
there was a lot of short games. This was during COVID. I didn't have to worry about work.
That's fair.
You
That's
know,
fair. The perfect time for video gamers. COVID. Whoever thought we'd say that, you know?
bring
But
back COVID.
but it is what it is. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. But goodbye for now.